Welcome to Nerdlandia, where we may have different interests, but we all speak fluent geek. I'm your host, Emily Case Buskirk. For those listening in real time, happy January! There's been lots of great feedback on Season 1 so far, with tons of comments from people who are inspired by the first episode. Thanks for tuning in and being part of the conversation. Today, we're keeping the creativity theme going with Rory Jean Sykes, a painter and musician who describes her aesthetic as goth grandma. We talk about what inspires her as a painter, plus her other passions of crocheting, running, and playing saxophone in local bands. As a creative generalist myself, I found a lot of kinship in my conversations with Rory, so I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I do. Stick around to the end for the recurring current favorites segment, plus a quick preview on episode 3. Rory, thank you so much for joining us today. I am really excited to talk to you about all of your different interests. And so that's kind of where I wanted to start today. You've called yourself a jack of all trades, so how do you describe your creative identity?
I have always just been a creative person in general ever since I was pretty young. So I've just always had a lot of interests that have pulled me in different directions. When I was in high school, I was super into music, but I also did painting class. You know, like the schedules never lined up, so I kind of had to choose one or the other, and it's always kind of been having to choose art or music, or, you know, I got into fashion design and sewing when I was in high school too. As I've grown up, I've allowed myself to just go where the motivation and inspiration is.
I really love that philosophy because I feel like we're always getting pigeonholed, especially as artists. On that note, let's talk about your background as a painter then. So firstly, how long have you been painting?
I would say 10 to 12 years. I did a lot of art stuff, like, in high school and before that too, but I wouldn't say I actually, like, became a painter until I took my first painting class in college. So yeah, it's probably been about 12 years.
What to you defines, like, being a painter then?
I think when it became, like, a serious endeavor for me, and it wasn't just, like, I was just, like, copying, like, craft projects that I had seen online, you know, like those videos of, like, how to make, like, a spacey spray painting, you know, that's, like, more about, like, tricks and hacks than just, like, trying to come up with your own ideas, put your own, like, creative ideas and inspirations into a painting.
That makes sense. You learn the different, like, techniques and kind of just playing with different tutorials, and then you felt like you leveled up when you started, like, creating your own stuff and expressing your own ideas with that.
Yeah, because, like, in high school, like, the art classes, and, like, even in college, too, but only in, like, the very beginning classes, it's, like, they give you a prompt, and then you do that prompt, and then I think, like, the point where, like, you start to have your own ideas of, like, this is what I want to paint, and, like, you know, these are the artists who inspire me, and who, like, I want to take inspiration from to create my own style. You know, I think that's, like, when you start to, like, have your own identity as a creative person.
Oh, totally.
But it wasn't until I took my beginning painting class in college at UNL that it clicked for me, that I realized, like, this is, like, something I want to do. Like, I don't even care if I'm good at it. I love it so much that I, like, will spend all of my time doing this.
What do you think are your biggest influences to, like, how you approach painting?
I think I really, like every artist, we all love John Singer Sargent. He's, like, the master of art, you know, like that, like, romanticism, the realism, but you can still see that it's a painting. So he's definitely, like, a big influence in the kind of painting approach that I would like. But in terms of maybe, like, more modern people, there's a YouTuber, Andrew Tisler, who is fantastic. I got to a point, like, maybe, like, 5 years ago where I felt like I had graduated college, I had been working professionally painting, but it just felt like my skills were, like, I hit a wall, and I was almost even, like, backsliding. I just like felt like I didn't know how to paint anymore. And so his videos were super informative and inspirational and really helped me.
Is that maybe one of the reasons that you like started your own YouTube channel?
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, it was. I watched a lot of painters on YouTube, and I was always just so annoyed with like the time lapse, because how can you actually like take anything in and learn it if it's sped up?
I feel like the past couple of years on Instagram, I've seen artists experiencing a lot of burnout because they feel like their work is being devalued because of the platform. Like, they need the platform for the reach that it provides, but then the platform kind of wants them to just be like, okay, you made this one really successful thing, so like just like make a bunch of variations on that one thing. And people don't really work that way. Artists don't work that way. A lot of pieces can take months or even years in some cases. So I don't know. That's just something I've seen. What are your thoughts on all of that?
That's a big part of it for sure. Like, you might see like a 10-second clip of like the entire process of a painting that took like 10 or 20 hours. And so it's like, when you think, oh, like I can totally pop this out in an hour, and it doesn't, you can feel like really upset with yourself. So yeah, that's the other thing. If I find myself watching too many time-lapse videos of paintings, when I sit down to paint, I get really anxious, a desperation, and that like, oh, I need to be like painting faster, and like I should be doing this faster. And yeah, it definitely contributes to that, being pigeonholed by the algorithm, that if you do one thing, you have to just keep doing that one thing over and over and over. And like, artists are like really creative people, you know, so like we have so many more ideas than just that one thing.
Exactly. Do you want to explain a little bit about your channel and kind of what you do on the channel and what it looks like?
Yeah, I haven't posted it. I think it's been at least over a year since I posted a video, just because they take so long, and I was annoyed with all the time-lapse videos, so I wanted to create something that was like, even if you don't watch the whole thing, like you can just see the entire process and like how long it actually takes, what the brush strokes actually look like, and the texture of the paint, and the thought behind each brush stroke, you know, because a lot of those videos also make it seem like you just kind of like throw a bunch of paint and like scribble it on, and it's more thoughtful than that. But then, yeah, I also love music, so I wanted to combine that as well. And so I just wanted to combine both those things and make videos that you could have on while you're also painting, or just trying to relax or whatever. Yeah,
I really love that. I think it introduces some like thoughtfulness into just the experience of watching a video. I'm also like a huge fan of jazz, so that's another thing that I really liked. I played jazz through college, and I feel like jazz gets a bad rap because, yes, there's a lot of the like what people call wallpaper music, which is like kind of just the background stuff or the elevator music, yes. But if you actually go to like a jazz show, just getting to like see the process of like the artist creating something right on the spot is like such a cool experience.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So I grew up with jazz my entire life, which is why I love it so much. My parents had a jazz band together, and then when me and my brother were old enough to start playing with them, we did. We had like a little family band, but
oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I have always loved jazz. It's a huge inspiration for wanting to do that on the YouTube videos as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. So how did you decide what instrument you wanted to play?
My mom played saxophone, so
nice.
Yeah.
Your family band, that just sounds so precious. Yeah. So going back to painting, I've seen that pets are one of the focuses, and in particular there's this amazing memorial painting that you did of your dog. Do you want to talk about that? And also I was wondering, how do you decide what to include when you're trying to capture the essence of like a particular pet and its personality?
Yeah, I've been painting pets for a really long time. My little chihuahua passed away 2 years ago, and I had that idea like right away, but it took 2 years to be able to even do it. We called her like Little Potato or Little Sweet Potato because she's like the size of a potato. So that's why that kind of like sparked the idea. The painting had like pumpkins and sweet potatoes and like fall flowers and everything. And also like fall was our favorite time. Like they had like little matching skeleton sweaters and like Halloween costumes. So I just like wanted to have a whole like fall themed painting to represent her. And that painting was actually like 3 or 4 images of her put together. Like the sweater was one, and then her head was a different photo, and then I photoshopped the tongue from a different photo because she always had a huge lip, but I wanted like a very specific pose. It was a very meaningful painting to do, and also a very challenging one. I'm a very literal person, so I paint what I can see. I'm not very good at like just making stuff up. That was the other challenge of like why I waited so long, is I was really intimidated by doing a painting that like, I'm not very good at Photoshop either, so like the Photoshop image looks wonkier than how the painting actually came out, because I was gonna have to kind of like make stuff up. So yeah, I'm really proud of that one. I feel like for animals, the best paintings are the ones that like show their personality. So if they're like a really regal pet, then, you know, like this slight side view, this 3/4 view, you know, that kind of looks like a Victorian style portrait works really well. But also some of my favorite ones are when they're making just like the wonkiest face, you know, like they have their tongue out, or like they're like mid-sneeze or something like that like really shows the personality of the pet. Those are my favorite ones.
I love just getting to hear about the process, and that it was kind of a composite of different images you already had. I commissioned an artist to do an ornament of my 2 pets, which are a cat and a gecko, and I would never like let them meet because it would really stress out my gecko. But on the ornament, like they get to be side by side. Yes. So that's what I love about paintings. It would be almost impossible to get that in a photograph, and you can usually tell when something is Photoshopped. But in a painting, you can like bring it together, and it just looks so perfect.
Yeah, and it looks like you know, kind of like a romanticized, idealized version of it that just can make it more impactful and more meaningful than just having like a photoshopped image.
Exactly. So you're a full-time artist. Are there any tactics or tips you have for keeping your creative tank full?
Yeah, I do experience a lot of burnout. Specifically, that's been around pet portraits. Like, pet portraits are really popular and people want to pay for them, but I've been doing it for 5 years and I'm over it. Even though it's like ramping up, I'm just like, I'm tired of it. Just because I've been doing it for so long. But really, it's like having other creative pursuits is what helps you balance that out. Even just like imposing limits on how much you do commissions so that you have the mental energy to do the other things that inspire you. Because doing those things that, like the projects you really want to do that inspire you, will give you the energy to keep going with the other stuff.
Obviously, I'm a huge proponent of that because I have so many different things that I do. I mean, outside time is probably my biggest way of clearing my head, and sometimes when I'm at work, I'll just like go on a walk over my lunch break, and then I'll get like all these ideas for the podcast. It's just a time of like such creative inspiration. Just feels really organic, which is nice because there's so much like pressure and stress when you're an artist. It's just so nice when you can find something that helps refresh you.
We have a tendency to think that like I just need to like keep grinding and keep pushing forward and keep working, and the idea of just like putting aside the project that you do need to work on but like that you're not motivated to do, just to do something else that will refresh you, is hugely beneficial.
Totally. So let's talk about some of those other things that you find inspiring. What sparked your interest in textile media?
Project Runway is what inspired my desire for textiles. I just started taking like my parents' old stuff and just like cutting them apart and like reworking them, just hand sewing. And I love like just the act of hand sewing. Like it's just really like meditative. Like anything that you do with your hands focuses your energy and is repetitive is meditating to me. Like I love sewing and working with fabric, but like the industry was just not for me. I probably went like several years without doing any kind of sewing or textile stuff, because maybe like a year ago I did these little paintings and then I embroidered on top of the paintings. It like reignited my love of hand sewing and just like doing little things with my hands that don't require a ton of focus, but also takes enough focus that you're not just like spiraling down mental rabbit holes, you know? And I've actually only been crocheting for like a couple months now. I wanted something to do in the winter that wasn't painting, but that was still involving my hands. A lot of that came from, I made my wedding dress. I got married 2 months ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and having like not sewn for, you know, like 3 or 4 years, I was like, yeah, I'll just make my wedding dress. That's fine. I mean, it was like a fairly easy project. It wasn't a crazy design or anything. I did a lot of hand sewing on that too, so it just reignited that whole thing. And then I started seeing some videos on crocheting and I was like, that looks like so much fun, and it looks like I could make so many things that I would love to buy but just like simply can't afford.
Right.
Yeah, it was one of those things where like as soon as I started doing it, I was like, it's kind of like painting. It just like it clicked immediately and I was like, oh, it feels like I've been doing this forever, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like the idea of a DIY wedding, but I'm pretty sure most people aren't like, oh, I'm just going to DIY my dress.
Yeah,
No big deal. So how long have you been a part of the band that you're currently with?
It's been, I think it was 2019 when I joined them. Mad Dog in the 2020s. I've known most of them since high school. They were looking for a saxophone player, and I knew the previous saxophone player, so he gave me a recommendation. Before that, I knew them for a long time, but I never thought that I could be someone who was in a band. Even though I was like in high school band and in jazz bands and stuff like that, I never thought I could be in like a local band that plays shows. That always seemed so intimidating to me. Like, it's just so much fun to play with them, and has really like brought me out of my introverted self.
That is awesome. And it's mostly ska, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you feel like approaching a band that embraces ska?
The funny thing is it's not that I don't like ska, I just don't listen to ska. It's not my go-to, which is funny because you think like, oh, like I love big bands, or I love horn instruments, so I should love ska, but maybe it's just that I don't like punk. When we have shows, it's like the highlight of the month or the week. It's fun to just like get to hang out and we all just get to do this like one thing that we love, which is music. But I also have another band with my brother.
Oh, really? Yeah. Wow. And so what's that?
It's called Infinite Cathedral. Like, we have everything recorded and it's being like mixed and mastered right now, but so we don't have an official date, but it will be out soon. But it's kind of like electronic, lo-fi, kind of like what was on my YouTube channel. Some like post-rock, shoegaze, rap, kind of a little bit of everything, but mostly that like electronic, chill, lo-fi kind of vibe throughout the whole thing. And I play saxophone on it, and I play my saxophone through a pedal board with effects, which makes it like really fun and different, and I get to experiment with like weird sounds. My brother had been asking me for years to play with them, but again, like I was super intimidated. My brother's been in bands since always, but like the huge difference is not like whether you are capable, but whether you think, like whether you believe that you could be, you know, because like you can work towards anything if you put in the time and the effort. So it's not even a matter of like, can you do it right now, but are you willing to put in the work to get to that point? So yeah, it was a lot of trial and error and a lot of just like recording and then re-recording and learning. And I think a lot of times people get into this trap of thinking like, I created this one thing, and at the time, it was the best thing I could create, and then thinking, like, that's the only good thing I can ever create. You know, like, just because you currently don't have more ideas or ideas on how to improve upon it doesn't mean you can't just, like, keep progressing forward.
Yes. Yeah, it's all about growth mindset, and I am a always recovering perfectionist, so I'm, like, always, like, struggling against it because I get, like, so down on myself when it's like I want to be up here and I'm like not there yet. So it's like such a balance of like cheering yourself on for like what you can accomplish, but also wanting to keep getting better. And so having both those at the same time is like kind of difficult.
It is. Yeah, I definitely learned that through painting. Like you know, when I was struggling and I was feeling like I don't even know how to paint anymore, which can be like really, you know, like I had been painting for 10 years, so it felt like I felt really distraught that like I didn't feel like my painting skill was what it should be, and a part of me just wanted to give up, but kept trying to improve, kept finding things that I could improve, recognizing when I had improved and seeing that as an example of like, even though now you're still not where you want to be, you are further along than you were. So just like keep putting in the effort and letting go of like having to be perfect. That's the hardest thing.
One of my mantras is done is better than perfect, because I too can like just get all wrapped up in like this needs to be perfect and it can't see the world until it is. Actually, that's not even physically possible. So the last interest of yours I wanted to talk about is powerlifting. And I've found that workouts have really like helped my like mental health and even my creativity and inspirations. What's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, I've been lifting for a long time. My mom was the one who inspired me to lift, actually. So ever since I was in college, I started lifting, and it's just like it felt really good to feel strong. Like, especially as a woman, you know, that whole thing of, you know, we're told that we're supposed to be, you know, meek and small or whatever, and that we're not strong, and it's like, does not mean that women can't be strong. So I've always been really motivated by just feeling strong. But more in the recent years have gotten into powerlifting, specifically because it feels really good to be like really strong. It's like an intentional way to overcome challenges, and then you have like evidence for yourself that you can overcome challenges.
You have the
so
data.
then you can use that and apply it to other things. Like I deadlifted 250, so like I should be able to like pop through this pet portrait that I don't really want to do, but someone paid me to do, you know? Or like I can just do the dishes after a long day even though I don't want to.
Yes, it helps like so much with that mental resilience. And my own experience is like actually pretty similar to yours, because my mom was also into working out, so that's kind of where I got inspired to like have like a home gym and stuff like that, even though mine isn't very elaborate. It's like just have what you can fit in your house. For me, I specifically really love weightlifting and things related to that. Such an empowering experience to do that and to improve from week to week.
So like I love weightlifting, but I also was super into biking. I did bike delivery as my job for like 3 or 4 years, which was like really intense, like biking through the winter and everything, which is why I've kind of taken a break from doing a whole lot of biking. I've kind of gotten into running now. Because I think like both are important. The weightlifting, just like feeling strong and empowered. It also just like helps your body feel good. But the cardio is what helps my brain more than anything. Like the difference in my mental state when I just go for like a mile run, more like jog, but it makes a huge difference.
Totally, yeah. Cardio specifically helps me a lot with my anxiety, and my husband got me into bike commuting.
The only way I can bike, which is maybe why I don't do it as much anymore, it's just going as hard as I can. Like I just love that feeling of being on a bike and just like flying by and like knowing that like it's your body that is moving you this quickly. Oh man, it feels so good, but also like it's really exhausting to your body, so I try not to do that. too much anymore, which is why I do more the jogging, because I can't run super fast without hurting myself, so I just like lightly jog, but
I get that. Okay, so this is kind of random, but can you provide some backstory for your grandma goth label that you use in your Instagram?
I mean, I've always thought of myself as like a grandma, because I just love the slow life and kind of like grandma aesthetic. Yeah, I don't know. It's literally just a phrase that popped into my head, and I was like, that describes like my aesthetic, essentially. It's just like I love black and I love dark colors. The other day, my husband was like, "You know there's other colors besides black, right?" And I was like, "I don't know what you mean. I simply don't understand." Black is technically all of the colors, so you're wrong.
A phrase that you use that I love is slow life, and I feel like I'm always trying to push against the, like, hyper speed modern society, like, internet stuff, and it's always such a struggle because I feel like things get more digital, less tangible, and more instant all the time. Is there anything else about your creative work or the Grandma Goth life that you wanted to share?
I feel like only recently have I felt like I am finally like coming into my own unique area that defines me creatively, that isn't like, you know, a very specific like kind of painting or that I only do painting. Like it just took a lot of exploration and trying things and failing and yeah, I was actually talking to my husband about this last night, is that like it is so easy to see the things people post, which is like their best paintings or like their best works, and to think that they only create the best paintings or the best works, but like you don't see any of like the paintings that they stopped, or like the drawings that they threw away, or like would never post, because we are human beings and we're not machines.
Yes.
We're not perfect, so sometimes things just don't line up, and so we don't create the work that we want to, but like that work doesn't define your capabilities.
Oh, for sure. And even though I know it, I always fall into the mental trap of seeing the shiniest version of somebody on social media and comparing that to my dingy self.
Yeah.
Even though that's totally not how it works, but it's just so easy to fall back into thinking that. But one of the things that's been so comforting to me is realizing that we're allowed to keep trying new things and to keep learning. Now we are entering into the recurring segment, Current Favorites. What is your current favorite thing?
Well, I say current favorite, but it's more like always favorite. Critical Role.
Ooh.
D&D D&D's doing so. It's like a major production now, and they have like the animated series, and then a bunch of like spin-off series. I love that show more than anything. Just the stuff they come up with, like 4 hours of just like sitting around improvising everything, and just like the way they have like so much wit and like act within their characters so well that they just like immediately are responding in character. Like it's some of the funniest.
So I thought I was going to provide an update on Boy and the Heron, which I saw and I loved, but I don't want to provide any spoilers for people who haven't seen it, but definitely go see it. This past week, I was diving into NPR's like greatest jazz albums of the year list, and there's like so many good ones. So one of my favorites is the Omnichord Real Book by Michel and Cello. And it's just so cool. It's a blend of so many different things, a bunch of different collaborators. And it's also very Afrofuturist and cosmic in its vibe. And it just like feels like such a balm to all the stress and rushing around of the past year. If you're taking any time to unwind at the end of this year or in January, then definitely give that a listen because it's just the best vibes. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on this show and sharing all of the different creative things that you do.
Thanks for having me.
I can tell you how it was. Dad, I saw...
So what?
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nerdlandia. It was so encouraging to talk with Rory about creativity, perfectionism, and fighting burnout in the digital age. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did this inspire you to try crocheting or check out upcoming shows at your local venue? Let me know by emailing nerdlandia.podcast@gmail.com. And if you're liking the show, go ahead and give it a 5-star rating to help fellow nerds discover it. Up next, we're switching gears and talking bike adventures with Jared Buskirk, including how he got into it, the pros and cons of traveling with a group, what gear you should bring, and much more. Tune in on January 24th for that conversation, and follow Nerdlandia on social media for updates. See you soon! Nerdlandia is hosted, produced, and edited by Emily Case Buskirk. Theme song and ending credit music by Keith West. Additional music by Mad Dog in the 2020s and Infinite Cathedrals, used with permission.